Hey everyone, it's Kite-Tails.
And Flex.
And we're going to review Civil War.
Here we go. We're going to review a movie about a civil war. The Union versus the Confederacy.
Alright, different kind of Civil War. That's
right, Spider-Man versus Iron Man.
Yeah, this is another Civil War, okay. We just saw Civil War last night, so this is a fresh review.
This is fresh.
As you can see, we're still wearing the clothes from our other review.
It's so fresh that we wore the clothes at the theater, came back and filmed the review.
We just filmed all these reviews at once, so
back
whatever.
To back. Woo woo!
You don't get the modification of wardrobe. You have to wait till next week for that, because we just reviewed all this. Okay, so Civil War was directed by Alex Garland.
Written by Alex Garland.
Written and directed.
Known for Ex Machina, Devs, Annihilation, and writing the script for Judge Dredd.
So we've seen all of his stuff.
We haven't seen Min.
Okay, we haven't seen that. But we've seen everything except one thing of his.
Correct.
Really enjoy him as a director. Really like him. We saw this trailer for Civil War. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. I'm interested just because of the current political state of this country and how much we are fatigued and upset and irritated by the state of this country and how insane and ridiculous people are. So I saw the trailer for this. I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, okay, we're going to get to see a representation of how crazy everything is right now. The trailer, oh, that's not even a trailer. It's just a little tiny clip of it.
Little tease.
But I went into this film thinking it would be a film in which we would see what leads up to the events in this film. But it very much starts out already in the middle of it.
I would say it starts out at the end.
Okay,
in all honesty, it doesn't even start in the middle.
No.
It starts at the end.
Oh, here's the trailer. It starts out near 19 the end.
It's like the final days of the conflict.
Yes. And
as you can see, like there's a lot has already happened.
It's already going in. The events have already been going on for a long time in this film.
Years.
So don't go into this film thinking you are going to get a lead up to the events. There are some little clues, and we'll talk about them. We'll do a tiny little spoiler discussion section because we're not going to discuss it during our review, but we will do a spoiler section in which we talk about some of the things. But watching the movie going into it, I thought, oh yeah, they're going to explain. They don't explain anything, so don't have this expectation that you are going to get a lead up to this, and if that's going to disappoint you, then yeah, you are going to be disappointed. For me, watching this film felt like a Call of Duty mission where you are already thrown into something, and it's a given of everything kind of leading up to it. You already kind of learn, or you expect it in a way. But this movie more so focuses on these three war journalists, Kristen Dunst and the two other ones.
The two others, yes. I want to say before we get into like that, this movie is very much Apocalypse Now or Heart of Darkness. If you've ever read the book or seen Apocalypse Now, it is a movie that is about a journey from point to point and the interactions that happen along the way. And I think going in knowing that is going to help you enjoy it more, so you don't have this false expectations. I think a lot of people's problems with this movie is false expectations.
I think there was an expectation that they thought they would get to see the big calamity, but it's already been going on. They say very early on in the film how long how long the current power has been in power. So just don't think, oh, I feel disappointed because I didn't really get a story. It's not about that. So going back briefly, it does follow around the three war journalists. They're the protagonists,
technically
arguably four for the movie. But so if you know anything about journalists, especially war journalists, if you've seen any photos of very, very famous photos from any period in time taken by war journalists, taken by people who were covering conflict, there is this idea that to take a good photo, to be in this environment, to kind of just be an observer and not assisting, there has to be a severe level of disassociation. You have to really detach yourself from empathy of what you're seeing in order for the greater purpose of reporting it. And that was one thing I really liked about this film, is that they kind of show you the process of how that must happen, going from being an empathetic person to realizing I have to take this photo without any kind of interference in order that I can tell people what's going on. So I've never seen a film focusing on war journalism in that regard, in that sense. And I really appreciated having it told like this.
Yes.
Having it kind of imagined this is what these people must go through. Because some of the photos you see, you just think like, oh, why didn't anyone help? Why did they just, stand there and take a photo? So I think this is a really good film, not even for its, just its fictitious
message,
story,
yeah.
but it's real life message, and kind of getting people to think the people that are covering these events all over the world that are putting their lives in danger to this day in countries where journalists get killed and tortured. This is a very, very gruesome job. And so this movie just really opened my eyes in that regard, because I'd never seen a film about a war journalist like this. So that was one of the things I really liked about the film.
The use of the war journalists, so they're taking pictures. The man is the writer. The two women are photographers.
Yeah.
And Kirsten Dunst, the older of the two, she uses a digital camera. And Jessie, who's the younger of the two, don't know the actress's name, she uses an old film camera. And the cool thing this movie does, this is not a spoiler, as they take pictures during heightened scenes, because there are some very intense and heightened scenes in this movie, they will take pictures when things are happening. And depending on who's taking the picture, you'll get a freeze frame. It's a second. It's and depending on what camera's being used, if it's Jessie's, the younger girl, it's a black and white still that's incredibly clear. And if it's Kirsten Dunst, it's a color photo that's slightly blurry. Because she's using a digital camera. And this happens throughout the entire movie. And it works so well because, one, it reminds you like what they're there for. And every time they freeze frame, it's something horrendous happening. Someone getting shot, someone dying, someone falling. Like, it's something bad happening represented in each of these pictures. So you see, like, this is why they do this. But also, because it's so intense, it gives you that second to look and appreciate the moment that you might miss if you blinked. Really strong cinematography. This entire movie. I've always liked Alex Garland. I don't know who his director of photography is, but that person deserves probably an award for this movie, because it's beautiful end to end. And when it gets intense with combat, and the combat feels very realistic, it is just, you can't look away. Like, your heart rate elevates. This is definitely one, if you can see it in IMAX, and we were talking about this in the car coming back last night. Usually we see movies in IMAX and we're like, yeah, it was good. Sound was good. Picture was good.
Yeah, the sound was chilling in IMAX watching this film.
It's so loud.
Yes. When the jets fly overhead and the gunfire, it was just very, very intense.
You jump. Like, there are times you will jump because the gunfire sounds so loud and it's so real. It is intense. This is definitely one that if you can see it in an IMAX theater, I think it's worth the visit, because you're going to get an experience I don't think you can get in most other places.
No. And Nick Offerman as president was perfect.
Yes.
I wish, though, so when the movie started out and Nick Offerman it just starts off with him in a little speech.
On the TV.
I was like, I wish he was president. But Nick Offerman, not this version, because for reasons you will learn. Yeah, this guy was also, so Alex Garland clearly likes working with the same people.
Yes.
To an extent, because this actor was in Devs. Nick Offerman was in Devs.
The girl from Devs was also in this.
Yes. So another thing in the film that's really interesting is they never tell you what anybody's political stance is. You don't know what anyone stands for. There are some clues. And we'll talk about a little bit of clues in the spoilers so we could talk about what we think. But there are tiny little clues, and he came across this soldier, and, his nails are pink and his hair is dyed. You don't know anything about anyone in this movie. It is just action. It is just sides and war.
Yeah. And it's, there's a quote very early on made by Kirsten Dunst's character that, she's talking about war photography, and she says, it's not our job to react. It's our job to take the photo and let others decide, how to feel. And that sentiment is echoed the entire movie to a very successful extent, I think.
Yeah. No, it is it's a very intense film. So if you don't like intense movies, I would definitely say you won't like this one. But I feel that sometimes we have to watch things that make us uncomfortable so we can humble ourselves. I'm a big proponent of that. I don't like when people say, oh, my fifis, my sensitivities. So sometimes your fifis be damned, you have to put yourself in a situation where you realize how terrible something is so that you keep it in mind and don't let it happen. That was the whole point. Kirsten Dunst, her character, she plays this war photographer named Lee Smith, but she has a line in the film where she says, I thought I was taking these photos to prevent this from happening. It was supposed to be a warning. She went to all of these other countries. She said, I went to all these other countries, these conflicts, covered these wars back home so it wouldn't happen here. And it's kind of gross how people today really glorify the idea of a civil war. The whole idea of fighting your neighbors just it just repulses me. It makes me so angry that there are legitimately some people who would love this situation, who want to see this kind of destruction. That is,
you see those people in this movie.
You see, yes.
Yes, those people are in this movie, the ones who want it.
I'm surprised this movie has as high as a rating as it does, because I would expect it would have gotten Brigaded. I would have expected it gotten review bombed, because I've seen some films, very, very good movies that get review bombed by certain groups. But no, I'm glad. Again, I feel like some people that might be out of touch with what their political stances are, like, oh no, we're the good guys in this movie. It's not about good. It's about the fact that the country was even in a situation where this happened in the first place. Yeah. It's very scary. So it was a very intense movie. When I finished the film, I didn't think I liked it as much, but after I kind of sat and thought about what the message was and actually what it was trying to convey, I really, really liked it.
Yeah. I loved it start to finish. Like, I truly love this movie. I think it might be one of his best movies he's done, and I really liked Annihilation and Ex Machina.
I still like Ex Machina better, though.
I think Annihilation's still my favorite, but I might like this more than Ex Machina.
No, I love Ex Machina because I love the actress in Ex Machina.
I love Ex Machina.
She's so cute. Alexis Vander something. She's done.
Alicia Vikander.
Yeah. But she's so cute. Oscar Isaacs is also hilarious in that movie.
Gonna tear up that dance floor.
Yeah, he's gonna tear it up. Like, it's so funny. But this movie, not funny. There is no funny banter. I think
there was like one joke the entire movie.
Yes.
It was like right in the middle. We laughed, and then we went back to being upset.
And that was it. Yeah, it's a very heavy movie.
Yeah.
So, yes, I recommend seeing it. Very well done, very well shot. The message is upsetting.
The sound is phenomenal.
It doesn't really make you feel good at the end.
But it's not supposed to.
It's not supposed to.
This is a warning.
Yes.
This is very much a warning. Alex Garland even said he made this movie out of anger.
Yeah.
And you can tell. And I think when we get to the spoiler section, I have more to say on that. But yeah.
So yeah, that is our review for Civil War. We will now do a little discussion about what we think. So that this is going to be the spoiler part. So click off if you don't want to know about the spoilers. What we think. Okay, so first of all, Nick Offerman there is a line about him. This is his third term.
His third term. Yeah.
Going on fourth term. He is clearly he's enacted himself as a fascist dictator. He is refusing to leave office. And the country is now divided into several. You have the United States of America.
Which he is a part of.
Which he's a part of. And then you have the Western forces.
Which comprise California and Texas. That's the 2-star flag you see in the trailer.
And then you have the Florida Alliance, which is Florida and a bunch of places around the South.
Which we don't know much about.
They didn't go into Florida Alliance at all. One of the characters said he was from Florida, but I'm not sure if he was lying about that. I think he was trying to test Jesse Plemons where he stood. But Nick Offerman is refusing to leave office.
He is a dictator.
Yes, he's a dictator. And so the Western Force, WF in the film, of California and Texas, and I think a lot of people not knowing thought, okay, that's kind of funny. Like, why would that happen? But you read a really good theory about in what scenario would California and Texas ever team up?
Well, it's not. So there are some theories, but what I would say is the one character in the movie says this alliance is only as good for as long as it takes to get the mission done. Yeah. And the mission in the movie is kill the president.
Right.
So the Western Forces is moving on Washington, D.C. They're mostly almost there. Like I said, this movie starts at the very end.
Yeah.
They're almost there. The photojournalists want to get a picture and an interview of the president before he's killed. Because everyone knows the Western Forces is going to close in and they're going to get it. So someone says this alliance is only going to last as long as it needs to get the job done. And the thing I love about California and Texas is it's truly the opposite ends of America's political spectrum. What would it take for these two largest states to combine? Mm-hmm. And it's a fascist dictator of 3 terms. It's like we've gone beyond just social issues. Yeah. I think that there is I want to watch this movie again just for more detail because there's so much hidden in there. But I think that truly it's become the most corrupt, right? Like we don't know what happened. We do know there's a really strong reaction to China. So there could be a dealing that was made between Nick Offerman, president, and China. But
also, one of the characters, I don't know, I'm going to the cast was the young photographer right here, Jessie. She says to Kirsten Dunst's character, she said she knew her from, Kirsten Dunst's character, Lee Smith, rose to fame after the infamous photo of the Antifa massacre.
Which has not happened in real life.
That hasn't happened yet.
But it's happened in this.
That's a clue as to, okay, at the time, that was the setting for the breakout war.
And I think she said that was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that happens between like right now here in our timeline and what you're seeing in this photo.
Right. Because the movie doesn't, it takes place, it's not aged. They don't really use cell phones and
there's no cell phone.
Yeah, there's no
you see them, but they have no signal. And they make a point to show you
and she even says, you still need a cell phone just to view things, but it's kind of implied they don't use cell phones anymore.
Right. The only way that they can get their photos online is by going to safe havens and using the Wi-Fi. Right. Which, I just love all of the detail. Mm-hmm. Every single thing you could have thought about for how does this work has been thought about. And I'm sure it's going to make a lot of people mad because they're like, he clearly wrote everything that happened before this and then threw it away. Right. Just so you could tell this story because there's so much thought put into it. Yeah. But I like that because it's a puzzle.
Yes. To me, we were on the ride home, I was like, oh, so he's like the Miyazaki. This is like the FromSoft.
This is the FromSoft of movies, truly.
Because it has little tiny clues in here. So Jesse Plemons, Jesse Plemons was only in the movie for this one scene. But again, you have a soldier here in fatigues.
This is the kind of person that wants this to happen. Right. He's loving this.
But you don't know when you meet. They don't tell you what side he's on.
He doesn't have a patch.
Okay,
so you can't know.
What American are you? And they all struggle. And someone throws out Florida. He didn't like that answer. The other threw out Missouri and
Colorado.
And he said those are real Americans. But you're like, this guy isn't an American. He's not a Western force. He's just doing his own thing. Mm-hmm. This is a cosplayer LARPer who is going to these hate protests, who is living his best life in this universe. Like, that is what is so scary about this movie, is that you legit don't know what side anybody is on.
Can we go back to the photo of the sniper?
Oh, yeah. Let me go back there.
Like I said in the pre-review, this movie is Apocalypse Now. They're literally just going from, I forget where they start, but ending at the White House. Mm-hmm. And just like Apocalypse Now, they make stops along the way. Right. So every time you see a different character or a different scene, it's a stop they're making. And this scene might have been one of my favorite scenes in the movie. They get shot while they're driving on the road, they get out of their car.
By an unknown sniper.
They get out of the car, they get down, and they see this guy and his spotter on his back and start having a conversation with him. And I don't think he has a patch on, so we don't know if he's Western forces or not. But they're not, this guy and his friend aren't attacking the press. They start interacting with him saying, who are you shooting at? Is it, Western forces? Is it Americans? And like, we don't know.
Yeah.
He shot at us first.
I think he says, like, doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
This guy, whoever this unknown sniper was just killing people indiscriminately. And then you have these two guys here. And it was so interesting, too, because there's scenes with color. So the two soldiers in this scene their hair was dyed. You'd think like, oh, okay, just really fun colors. His fingernails are painted. You think like, well, what group would he belong to? But then there was another scene where I saw the use of color on a building as if it was flagged, and I thought...
That was from the smoke.
Oh, was that from the smoke?
That was from the smoke grenades they threw. Yeah.
But again, you see these guys here who are taking again, we don't know if they're American or Western force. Like, you just didn't know anyone's...
Allegiance.
You didn't know anyone's platform. I think that's another thing that kind of made this movie so stressful and make people... I think when people don't know who to root for or who they need to, is my guy winning? It stresses them out and they don't know what the message is supposed to be. The message is just supposed to be like, this is horrible. This should have never happened. This shouldn't be happening now.
Right. And I think that's the second thing that people are going to take umbrage with. It's not just, I don't have the detail. It's that the main characters in this movie are not good guys. In fact, I think there's one good guy in the entire movie, and it's the old man.
Oh, I hated this girl.
She's the main character.
I hated her. She's
who's not Kirsten Dunst, and she is awful.
This guy, so everyone in this film...
This guy's the patches, the hyena.
At the very end, when Lee Smith is shot... He walks on and doesn't check because
he's still smiling.
He's smiling because he gets his interview with the president. And he's smiling during the conflict. He says that
he loves it.
The violence gets him harder. He's just like, oh yeah, this is getting me really worked up.
But he's like an enjoyable character. Like, I don't hate him.
You don't hate him. But you realize like these are very broken people.
Yes.
These are very desensitized people. They're not supposed to be protagonists.
This is like I think this movie and Requiem for a Dream almost share a through line in their characters because you're not cheering for anyone except for the old guy. I think the old guy was great.
Yeah, this was one of the photos that Kirsten Dunst takes. And you can see this is when she was working as a war correspondent in the Middle East, or war photographer. But yeah, it was just, this is the only good guy.
He's the only like morally upright, positive character in the movie.
They get to a town where everything has been kept the same. You see all the snipers. And Kirsten Dunst says, this is everything I've forgotten. He says, that's funny because this is everything I remember. And I think that is supposed to show the two different mindsets of someone who is completely given up hope. She's completely jaded. This is everything that he remembers. Like, he's in this he's been a war press for a really long time. He still remembers what it was like. His motivations for fighting and for staying in it are much different than hers. She and her partner they just want the notoriety of getting the president's last words.
Yeah.
We just want the last moment with him, but he just wants, to go back to a time, and you see the age difference between them. So it just, I would definitely watch this movie again for sure.
It's so it's not an enjoyable movie. But it's a fantastic movie.
Yeah.
Like, I've watched Apocalypse Now probably 10 plus times because it's one of those movies that every time I come back to it and watch it again, especially the director's cut, which is longer, I'm getting new things from it because there's just so much sociology on display. And this is the same thing. Like, all of these characters are so fleshed out. Every single person has a backstory that we don't know, but we can glean based on conversation. Like, this is written like a real, you're just put in the middle of a real thing and you just have to react to it. And it is an impressive movie.
Yeah. And I also just really liked the realness of it. Sometimes when you have films where a city is destroyed, you have a bunch of civilians like, oh, I'm still outside. Like, there was no civilians around.
No.
Everyone knew what was going down.
Everyone see like was camps out. Where people are, evacuated to, but
You don't see any people running around. You don't see any, superheroes saving it. Oh, get out of the way. Like, no, it just felt very realistic.
Nothing good happens in this movie.
No.
Ever.
So that's our review.
It's great. I loved it. Loved it.
Yeah.
This is an easy 10 out of 10 for me. Wouldn't change a thing about this movie.
It's intense. Go watch it and be humbled and learn.
Don't let this happen.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, that was our review for Civil War. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time. Bye.